practice. You always want to create a vacuum in your practice to literally suck in more patients.
Hello, I'm your host, Dr. Richard Avery, and welcome to the Elite Chiro website Crushing It podcast, the chiropractic marketing podcast where we interview experienced and successful chiropractors and they share their trials and tribulations and their secrets to how they grew their successful clinic. We all know how important it is to have massive community awareness to drive an abundant number of new patients to your clinic. We also know the vast majority of those seeking out a chiropractor surge online above anything else. And that's why Elite Chiro websites have crafted the most powerful chiropractic website templates to enhance your visitor's experience and visitor to new patient conversion. In addition, only Elite Chiro websites optimize our clients for an incredible, industry-leading 45 keywords on the page 1 of Google. And only Elite Chiro websites offer a keyword guarantee. In fact, we're so confident in our website and our results that we'll give you a 2-month free trial, no catches, no obligation, and no credit cards required. To get your free trial, simply visit EliteChiroWebsites.com or call 1-888-558-5054 today. Okay, docs, are you ready to crush it? Crushing it. Our guest today is Dr. Michael Cutlass of Kalamazoo Community Chiropractic in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Dr. Cutlass, a graduate of Sherman College, has been in practice for over 33 successful years. Chiropractic is his passion, only surpassed by his dedication to serving others. With a bachelor's degree in education and 3 master's degrees in psychology, education, theology, and philosophy, he brings to the table much in serving his patients. He has published 2 chapters on chiropractic, one for Charles Tuttle and one for Mosby Elsvier, and has published and presented over 40 papers on clinical aspects of the profession. A certified NET practitioner, Dr. Cutlass was awarded the prestigious International Doctor of the Year in 2007 for his extensive contributions to neuro-emotional technique. He is also a diplomat in the American Academy of Pain Management. He is also a diplomat in the American Academy of Pain Management, the chiropractic advisor to the American Holistic Health Association, a fellow executive board member of the American Association of Integrated Medicine. And if that's not enough, prior to chiropractic, he taught for 10 years in the Detroit public schools. He has always sought to represent chiropractic in working with other professions and to spread the chiropractic message of subluxation correction and the importance of the subluxation-free world. So let's get on to the interview with Dr. Michael Cutlass.
Wow, you're a very well-rounded and decorated chiropractor, but I see that you were a teacher prior to being a chiropractor. And so let me ask you, what did you teach and what led you into chiropractic?
I taught in the Detroit public school system from 1970 to 1979. I was a health and physical education instructor in elementary school, and I coached basketball at the high school level for 4 years. And that was everything that I have ever wanted to do. From the time I was 8 years old, all I wanted to do was be a teacher. So going through high school, I'm going to be a teacher. Going through college, was in education, knew everything that I wanted to do. Then I became a teacher and hired in the Detroit public school system, and I taught there for 10 years. Wrote a couple curriculums for the mayor's task force and made connections downtown with the administration and things. But then I lost interest, and I started to become overstressed. And I knew I was overstressed because every evening I was drinking half a bottle to a bottle of wine to relax. And I knew I had to get out. I knew I had to leave. But from the time I was 8 years old, I was 30 at the time, all I wanted to be was a teacher. I could not imagine myself doing anything else. And then, you know, how spirit intervenes and universal intelligence says, well, here, let's see if this will help. And there was a car accident. I had to see a chiropractor. And so it was a family member, and she went to see a chiropractor, and she got better after 3 weeks, I think it was, of medical treatment that did nothing. And so then my son, who was sick, he was 3 years old at the time, and for 3 years, every spring and fall he got croup or lung infections. And the medical answer, of course, was antibiotics. And the medical doctor actually said to me, well, your son is sick because he has weak lungs. And that made totally no sense to me. It's like, well, was he in line to get his organs and he got in the weak lung line? I mean, it didn't make any sense.
Right,
And
right.
so then I went to see a chiropractor, and the same one that my wife at the time saw. And my son went in, and he started getting adjusted at 3, and his life turned around. All of a sudden, his innate abilities to heal himself just shone because he was free of nerve interference. And then I started to go. And all my old athletic injuries with judo and basketball and baseball, those all got better. And then it was like, I wonder if this is what I want to do. And my field chiropractor at the time was Dr. Claire Odell. Great man. Practiced for 71 years. Passed when he was 94. He actually worked with B.J. Palmer at Clearwater Sanitarium.
No kidding.
I mean, it was just, he was with the master. And
Sure, yeah.
spoke the same, just powerful, powerful philosophy. And I asked him, I said, I'm wondering about becoming a chiropractor. And he said, well, why would you want to be a chiropractor? And I said, well, gosh, that's a good question. And I was like, well, because I want to help people, just like when I'm teaching now. I help people. I help young kids. And he said, well, then you'll probably be a good chiropractor. The places you want to go is Sherman College. And at the time, it was Sherman College of Straight Chiropractic. So I went down there and went to school through there and got a great education, learned when not to adjust as well as when to adjust, got a very solid foundation in philosophy. So the rest is history, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. Chiropractors, not all of them obviously wanted to set out to be a chiropractor from day one. They come from all walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
Professional athletes I've met, especially what's really cool is when chiropractors want to become medical doctors, then they realize that the medical approach is just obviously not the right approach, and then get into chiropractic and just preach chiropractic. And it's great to know that chiropractors are from all walks of life and all different experiences and stuff. So but let me ask you this. When you're in chiropractic college, you're kind of given this picture of, having great practices and healing the world and this and that. But when you get out into practice, actually finish graduating and you start to actually practice chiropractic, everybody has these fears about starting a practice.
Oh, that's for sure.
What was your biggest fear when you started practicing, and how did you overcome it?
Well, fear can be a great motivator. And when I got out of school, I actually bought a chiropractic practice of a doctor that was selling. And at the time, any loans that you took were at 16% interest.
Eek.
And, I look at the low interest rates now and I laugh. So 16% was like, whoa. So that was when fear began to motivate me. And because at the time, the practice I bought was seeing 35 people a week. And so I started to pay attention to my surroundings. And I think new doctors, this is an important thing for them. We had 2 practitioners. I was in a small town of 1,000. And there were 2 fairly large 40,000 people towns surrounding me. And there were 2 big chiropractors that were sending 4-color, 8-page newspapers through telling about how wonderful their clinics were. And I looked at those ads and, realized, I'm 17 miles from one, I'm 15 miles from another, and they're pulling patients out of my town. And so back then, when you talk about cutting and pasting ads, that's literally what I did. I cut up their newspapers and I pasted my own ads on legal-size paper and copied them with my copier. And then went to our local newspaper, and for $400 or something like that, they would put them in 10,000 of their newspapers. So I had this little fill-in that went in on 8 by 12 legal-size paper, and I used the same advertising techniques that they were using, except for my town, and people started to come in. And 3 months after I had opened my office, we went from 35 to 112, 125, I think it was. And from then on, we just started to build and started to grow. And my office was a horrible office in terms of what it looked like professionally. But people came, they got the care. And I had my idea of what I wanted my new patients to do set. So when you came into my office, if you became a new patient, you had to come to an informed consent lecture where I told you about subluxation, innate intelligence, universal intelligence, the chiropractic adjustment. If you didn't come, I dismissed you. And I was open 6.5 days a week, and I just started to crush it on my own. So within, I think it was 5 months after that, we were at 250 people a week. And that's another important thing. I had to learn how to see that many people in the hours I was on. Because, you see a patient, you have so much time to work. Well, you have to work fast. And you have to have what I call present time consciousness, PTC. Jimmy Parker used to talk about this, where you only paid attention to who was in front of you. And you didn't pay attention to who was next. You didn't pay attention to how many people are in the waiting room. You went in, you corrected subluxations, you made your notes, you got out and went on. And
right. And
it's very important.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% because, when you start off your practice and you obviously have a quieter practice, the focus on your patients is very easy. But as you start to develop your practice and you have more people going around, there's more buzz in your office and just a lot more chaotic, it's a lot easier to kind of focus on what's going on in your clinic. Oh my God, am I running late? Okay, who's coming in next? Oh, there's a problem in the office in the other room. You have all these things going through your head and you lose focus on your patient. Your patient realizes that. They see that.
Yeah, they feel
They're
it.
feeling uncomfortable and they think, well, you know what? If this guy's not, or this doctor is not paying attention to me and giving his full attention, you know what? I'm at the wrong clinic. I need to see someone that will focus 100% on their time on my healthcare needs.
Yeah, and that's so important because you've got to pay attention to the patient, but also don't get lost in the patient. Oh, Betty, how are the kids doing today? Is Johnny still sick? It's like you don't have time for that conversation. And,
right.
And even if you do have time when you're first starting out, don't make it unless you're worried about Johnny because you know he needs to be adjusted. And then you have to communicate to the patient in such a way that's what I call unconditional loving, where you communicate with them in such a way that you tell them he needs to be adjusted.
Right.
This is how you want to come in.
One of the most important things that I was taught, I went to New York Chiropractic College, and one of the doctors said, regardless of how busy you are, whether you first started practice or you've been in practice for a while, especially when you first start, only spend what you need to take care of your patient. You don't spend as much time. Because if you are quiet, you have a lot of time to talk to your patients and just, talk about how they're doing, the weather, their family, and all that sort of stuff. So you may spend, say, 15 minutes with that patient or 20 minutes with that patient. But as you get busier, you don't have that time to dedicate that to that patient. However, that patient still expects that time. And so when you start to cut it down, they start to become offended. Oh, you know what? I'm just another number again. And you know what? I don't like this doctor anymore. And so they leave. So I was told when you get into practice, spend as much time as you need as if you're a busy practitioner.
Yeah,
Even though you have a lot of time, focus on what you have to do.
Because you apply then universal principles that are going to be very beneficial in building your practice. You always want to create a vacuum in your practice to literally suck in more patients. And if you don't spend 20 minutes with a patient, even though you might have it, you find them, you adjust the subluxations. Betty, I'll see you at your next visit, and away you go. There's a
Right.
vacuum created for a new person to come in, and
Right.
that is absolutely crucial. If your hours are 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and you're done at 3 o'clock, you don't leave your office because you stay there for the remaining 2 hours thinking about new patients coming in, reading chiropractic material, finishing your x-rays, writing your reports, and you create that vacuum. But if you leave at 3 o'clock to go to the lake, there's no vacuum because your hours aren't 9 to 5, they're 9 to 3. So you have to do due diligence and complete dedication in building your practice.
Exactly. Exactly. So obviously you're a very successful chiropractor, but you know, in any office or any business for that matter, we all face difficult times. What difficult period did you have in your clinic and how did you overcome it?
Well, I had two difficult times. About 5 years ago, we had a HIPAA violation by one of our staff. But 10 years into practice, just like 10 years into when I was teaching, I lost interest in my practice. And we were seeing 300 people a week, and it's like, so, I don't care. Oh, here comes another headache. Let's look at mid-thoracics and upper cervical. This is easy. I mean, I lost interest in what I was doing. And so I ended up taking a year off, and I went out and I learned techniques that were functional techniques. They weren't just musculoskeletal, but they were how do you assess the body functionally for vertebral subluxation. And during that year off, I learned those things. And when I came back, it's what I'm doing now, and I've never lost interest. In the last 23 years, I've been nothing but gung-ho, and now I don't care who comes into my office. I have the skills to handle any type of patient that comes in. And because I'm a subluxation-based chiropractor, I mean, I got 2 master's degrees after I was already in practice, one in psychology and one in theology and philosophy. But I applied those to my subluxation-based practice, and I learned the massive, just massive effects of subluxation. And in our office, we practice with what we call the health balance, and I educate our patients in this. Rest, exercise, good nutrition, positive mental attitude, the importance of spinal integrity, chiropractic care. And I still have, 33 years later, you come to my informed consent workshop or I fire you. And in 33 years, I've had 5 people that wouldn't do that. Only 5. So people want the story. They want the chiropractic truth. And applied along with that then is we recognize that the human being is a multidimensional being. Physical, emotional, mental, unconscious, and spiritual. And all of those elements have to be in order. They have to be in line if you are going to be a healthy person. And so with the health balance, the multidimensional nature of how we work, people address that. They recognize that. They follow that. They honor that. And they realize they're important for their care. The care is for them because they are important. And that makes it so much easier for patient compliance. Another thing for patient compliance, doctors, always give pre-scheduling. Always pre-schedule 10 to 15 appointments. At the end of that care schedule, always do a positive findings exam to measure the progress that they have. Patients are eager after that time to see how they're improving, and they will follow your directions all the time. And then you're going to see, like my PVA is 125. And
Right.
I mean, you know, so that makes it so much easier with.
And you know, I think a lot of I would say a lot, but there are a number of chiropractors out there that don't do follow-up examinations after treatment. And what they have to realize is that you don't necessarily, during the progress evaluations when you do them, the patient doesn't necessarily have to feel better
Yeah.
in terms of symptoms. Functionality, increased strength, decreased numbness and tingling, flexibility. Those are extremely positive findings. Symptoms can go away last. It all depends on how the body reacts. So when you do an examination, don't necessarily focus on symptoms.
Yeah,
Focus on the ability that the patient can.
that's so important, Doc. That's such a valuable aspect for the doctors listening in. And, you have your exam set up. Your exam is an educational experience for the patient.
Exactly.
That's so important. The important thing is you're correcting subluxations. Well, as you correct subluxations, symptoms tend to go down as their health levels go up. So,
Right.
that's what you're aiming for. And, well, Doc, how come it hurts when I do this? And it's like, well, two things, Fred. We haven't fixed the subluxation yet. Your body hasn't healed it. So don't do that.
Exactly.
Don't do that. And
Yeah.
you have to have the appropriate things. In our office, we use what we call the home run formula with our patients. So first base or home plate is structure and adjusting their spine. And you have to have excellent technique for that. You have to have techniques that move the bones, high velocity, low amplitude care. You might have instrument adjusting. You might have SOT blocking techniques, low force techniques, no force techniques. But you have to have a variety to address the type of subluxation that they have. First base, emotional components. I'm an expert, a real master at neuroemotional technique. That is one of the most powerful healing techniques in all of healthcare, the neuroemotional technique by Dr. Scott Walker. Lots of scientific evidence, more scientific evidence of its efficacy than any other technique in chiropractic. Second base is toxin elimination. If the body's toxified, you have to have ways to help them detoxify. Third base is nutrition. You have to provide, especially in our day now where most people's food comes out of a box, and they'd be better off eating the box than what's in it, is nutrition. Then we put them on the pitcher's mound, and we come at them from all four bases. Now, the key thing is, are you correcting the subluxations? Yes. Well, what do you do to hold it? That can be nutrition. That can be detoxification. You have to have the ability to have that patient's subluxation heal. Nowadays, especially. In the old days when they had better nutrition, I'd find it, fix it, and leave it alone, the old Gonstead adage. Today, you have to address them a little better.
Right. And that's another important thing for all you docs out there, especially you new doctors out there. When you have a new patient, you have to have a plan on how to treat that patient, step by step. So when you reach a certain, in your case, a base, then that's the first target. Then you get to the second base, and then that'll not only make the patient understand that they have to go through a number of phases, but that will also keep them compliant because they know, okay, I've reached this goal. Now to get much better, I have to reach the next goal, which is the second base. Okay, now I'm getting to that. Now I have to get to the third base. So they have a protocol that they have to follow that'll help build compliance, and that'll keep them in your office for a longer period of time so they get the proper healing that they need. If you're just going to say, okay, we're going to adjust you 3 times a week, then 2 times a week, then 1 time a week, and that's how it goes because your body starts to adapt this way, that's good. But you also have to make sure that the patient fully understands the goals and the kind of the end of each goal so they can go on to the next stage.
And that's very important that you do that. And like we give them written information and we tell them, this is what you came in with. These are our significant findings that document the necessity for care. Here's how we want to see you. At the end of that time, we're going to do a positive findings exam, and we're going to measure how far along are you, how much better are you. And then when we do that positive findings exam, we give them another report that said, this is where you were, this is where you are. Now, this shows that you're healing, but you're not healed yet. So this is our next line of scheduling for you. And people love that. They want to know. That makes them a partner because you're telling them, here you are. This is where we got to go. Do you want to come along? Oh, yeah. And so then they go out and they pre-schedule all of those appointments with the front desk. That is crucial to patient compliance. You get them to pre-schedule, and they know. And I tell them, I say, Betty, now, we need to see you twice a week for the next 8 weeks. What I want you to do is go out there, and I want you to schedule with Sherry all these next appointments. Now, pick a time that works for you. Pick a time that's not going to interfere with your life when you can come in.
Exactly.
And then they go out, they pick the time, they know when they're coming in, you know when they're coming in. Patient compliance becomes much more easier and much simpler.
Exactly. Okay, let me ask you this then. You obviously, again, you're a very successful chiropractor. You entered an area where you have a low population of 1,000 people. You have two towns next to you that have 40,000 people, and you have two major chiropractors that are doing major marketing campaigns and drawing from your market share, but you're still able to succeed. What separates you from your competition? Why did people come to see you as opposed to these larger clinics that have been there longer and more established?
Two things. I think it was the level of care that we provided, and I think the way I communicated with my patients. Being a teacher made it very important for me to communicate properly. And I'm an old Tony Robbins fan. In fact, I was his chiropractor when he came into town a couple times. And I talked to the people the way they wanted to be spoken to. So I lined up with their listening apparatus, were they kinesthetic, visual, auditory, and I spoke to them in that manner. And that allowed me to communicate to them in a way that made them understand what I had to offer them. And so it's a complete package. It's you offer good care, you're an excellent doctor, but you also know how to communicate that care. Because I know lots of doctors that are excellent chiropractors, but they don't know how to talk to people. And if you're going to spread the chiropractic message, if you're going to emphasize the importance of subluxation and subluxation-induced situations with compassion and understanding and identifying with the patient so they know that you know what's wrong with them, you won't have trouble. I've spent so little advertising money simply because it's word-of-mouth patient referral. And
word of mouth is key.
These people come in, and they're already sold. You just helped Uncle Bill, and they expect you to help them. So you do your exam. Am I going to be able to serve them? And we tell them that. I don't know. I don't accept all patients. I don't know if I'm going to be able to accept you. But we're going to do an exam. We're going to do an evaluation. I'm going to consult with you here. And if we're able to accept you, then you will. But if you're here for surgery, you're here for drugs, you're here for some other thing, that's not what we offer. I want you to leave my office right now. No, doc. No, what I want is I want your care. Uncle Bill said you're the best. Let's sit down and see how we can help you.
Right. Now, you pass by this relatively quickly in a kind of sense because you can tell that you're a very experienced doctor and you tell these patients the same thing, kind of not repetitively, but you say the same thing over and over again. And that is, you have to make sure the patient understands that you're not a clinic that just accepts anybody. You want to have your clinic to be somewhat of an exclusive club where you only accept people that you think are going to be better or are going to get better under your care or have a high potential of getting better and that are going to be compliant with your care. Otherwise, you're not going to accept them. Because if you show or display to your potential patient that you don't accept everybody, that you're an exclusive kind of club in a sense, they're going to have a greater likelihood of wanting to join your clinic and be accepted by you because they know that you're going to provide the care that they need, that you're a serious chiropractor, that you only accept the quality patients that, you can heal and the ones that are going to be compliant. That's really important. Again, you don't want to sound like you accept everybody that just walks in the door.
Well, and that's true. And the thing is, like, we're open once a month on a Saturday, for example, right now. And that's for our out-of-town patients. And see, I'm now in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is a larger town. I've been there for 23 years. When I took my year off, I also moved to another town. And I went to Kalamazoo, Western Michigan University, Kalamazoo College. We've got maybe 40,000 people, one of those bigger towns now. And the people here are just spectacular. They're highly educated, and they want to know what's going on with them and how are they. And so the way you speak to them is very important. And, we say to them, we don't know. We're going to see whether or not we can help you. And I send them a letter telling them about me after they come in after their third visit. And it explains who I am, explains my education, explains a little history about me, talks about my family. And the patients come in and just say, gee, Doc, nobody's ever told me about them before. Thanks so much. They have a place to identify with me, and they see me as a human being, and their human and my human match up, and then they become consistent patients. And then, of course, you have to get results.
Right. Exactly. Results are obviously key. So can you name one or two marketing campaigns that you find drove the most number of new patients to your office?
One of the most important ones, and I think this is for any chiropractor, is to do internal marketing. We went through the last year of our patients, and we found people that had fallen through the cracks, that had dropped out. And then we went through like the last 5 years and did the same thing. And we sent them a thank you letter. And we thanked them for their coming to our office and how we appreciated their care and appreciated them as people. And we included a coupon where they could send any one of their family or any one of their friends to our office for free consultation and examination. And the response was phenomenal. In 1 month, we had 33 patients in the door.
Wow.
And that was internal marketing. It was one of the things that we did because I was happy getting 3, 4, 5 patients a week on personal referral. But here it's 33 in one set. That gave our practice a big boost.
Right. You know what I used to do when I was in practice? Every new patient that came into our office, we'd send them a welcome package. And it was sent through FedEx. And it was just a small little box we had customized mugs that had our clinic logo on, branding and stuff, a squeeze ball. Back then we had a fanny pack, a couple pens, and a referral letter. And a referral gift certificate is what we called it. And not only did that surprise them when they came home, a few days later, and saw this package, but there was this wow factor, and they were really impressed by that. And that little token, it only cost us maybe $15 altogether, but that made them really loyal to our clinic. They had that wow factor, and because of that, there was a certain degree of reciprocity. So they felt that they should refer their friends and family, and they did, and it worked like a charm. So that drove a lot of new patients to our office.
Yeah, and that's very important because you show concern for them, they show concern for you. And another thing I used to do and still do is I'll talk to the patient and go, now look, our office hours, when we're open, and I said, but if you have any trouble, you give me a call. Here's my home phone number. Now, this is a number that you can use when you need to use it. I wouldn't be giving it to you if I expected you to just call me at any time, but when you're in trouble, you call me. And whenever our patients leave the office, I tell them 3 things. Okay, you're ready to go play. Go have some fun. If anything weird happens, you give me a call, and I'll
Yeah.
see you on your next visit.
Yeah, you know what? Giving your personal number, your mobile or whatever, your landline, that instantly builds that rapport you have with new patients. And I used to do that as well, and it made, again, the patients really loyal and really appreciate what we had to offer.
Well, they know you're a real person, and they know you care. Because
Exactly.
if they're in the medical profession, you know, Bob is in and out with a prescription, and Dr. Blowhard, he wants to make sure you're taking your drugs, but he doesn't tell you. The nurse is the one. You know, the sergeant comes in and gives the doctor's orders. And so the fact that you care is one of the biggest things that, number one, will help the patient get better. It will impact the ability for you to adjust better, and it will give you better results just because you care.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. When dealing with consultations, what would you say to increase the likelihood of that consult undergoing your care?
That's such a good question. That's such a good question, because when someone comes in for a consultation, they're seeing their attitude when they come in, like in our office, their attitude is they've been referred by somebody. They expect to get better. And then they get put off when I say, well, we don't expect that to accept everybody. And we have a pre-meeting with one of our staff where they go over our office policies before they even see me. And they've been told there, we don't accept everybody. And I've had patients come in and they're dabbing their eyes with Kleenex. I Betty, what's wrong? Oh, well, your staff says you may not accept me. And I said, the only way I'll accept you is if I think I can help you, and we haven't gotten that far yet. So have a seat and tell me what's going on. And then from that, I get an idea. They're telling me what's going on. I'll get an idea what I need to look for. And then we do a basic exam for them. And I tell them, we're going to do an exam here to see what's going on. This exam will help determine a couple things. Number one, can we accept you as a patient? Number two, do we need to take any x-rays? And if we do, what ones are those? And so let's get you on the table. Let's see what's going on. We do our exam. We schedule any x-rays we may need. And I always tell them, from my heart, from my heart of hearts, I actually think, based on the information that I have today, that I'm going to be able to help you. And that's a very true statement. And I say, now, what we need to do, though, is to get more information, because I don't know how long is it going to take, and I don't know what techniques are we going to have to use to help get you better. But from what I'm seeing now, I expect you to get better, and I want you to hold that focus yourself.
So do you have a day where they come back for an ROF, or report of findings?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, because I used to do the same thing, but I'd always make them come back for report of findings. I always found that, and there were rare occasions where I accepted them under our care that same day because it was just so obvious, from experience. But I always like to have them probably 95% come back the following day or for another day for an ROF, because one, from a patient psychological perspective, you don't want to accept the patient right away, because they want you to see they want you to examine all their findings, do a thorough examination of your findings, and then determine if they're a candidate for care. Mm-hmm. And also, that waiting period is really important for them, because that waiting period of another day, 24 hours, will make them more want to undergo your care. And we had a very high closing ratio, at least in my perspective.
Well, and that's true. And, I expected. And the other thing I would say is I would tell them, we're taking x-rays of your spine. We're going to see what's going on in there. Now, if I see a big, huge tumor in there, we're going to have to send you out to the medical profession. I don't think that's going to be the case, but you need to be aware of that.
Exactly.
And so we never had trouble closing, because we didn't, after probably my 5th year in practice, we stopped advertising. My phone book ads got smaller and smaller. And because my patient referral for new patients was consistent. And it, 4 or 5 people a week. Betty sent me, Uncle Bill sent me, Fred said I should come see you. So I was happy with that.
Sure.
With that. And we could handle it in the office, and the patient practice continued to grow because my PVA stayed high. And that's my patient visit average. And so,
Right.
if your practice is growing, your PVA tends to drop because you're seeing a lot more new patients than the number that you have. But there comes a time as your practice matures when that PVA starts to grow higher because you're consistently holding your patients. And that's the important thing. I wanted patients for life. I expect every patient that comes to see me is going to see me for the rest of their life or my life. And holding those high expectations, that's another one of those universal principles that you're going to, what you believe you can achieve. And by having these patients and you expect them to come to you forever, they're more committed. Now you lose some, but depends how you lose them.
Now, you obviously have a very high patient compliance in your clinic, and you do the informed consent talks. Is there anything else that you use or you say to patients to really drive home patient compliance, to follow? Because, patients, they think they're their own doctor. Oh, you know what? I feel better. I don't need to come see you anymore. Oh, you know what? I have more flexibility. I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. And
is there anything in particular that you say to maintain patient compliance?
yeah, that's something that used to drive me crazy because when they stopped coming in, I thought I did something wrong. And,
Right.
it's like I didn't tell them the story right. What was going on? So I've developed a couple things along the way that's helpful. And we have a thing in our office called a STAR appointment. And so, and this is particularly beneficial when someone's been a regular patient of yours and they hurt themselves and they have to come back, and you have to go from once every 2 weeks to 2 or 3 times a week because they're hurt. And I'll say, okay, Betty, now I want you to schedule next week, Monday and Thursday. I want you to make Monday a STAR appointment. Now, a STAR appointment means if you're feeling fine, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong, you call us and cancel that appointment, but I want you to keep Thursday's appointment. We've got to check and make sure what's going on. And I found with that, they make that STAR appointment, and because of the way we've cared for them in the past, where they've pre-scheduled their appointments, that STAR appointment is kept over 60% of the time. And if they're doing better, they then have their own ability to take charge of their care and call up and say, well, I'm doing better. I'll see you Thursday. They always keep Thursday's appointment, or they always keep the next appointment. And I found that to be a very, very helpful thing. We're going to schedule this STAR appointment. I want you to keep it if you need it. And, even if you're not sure, if you have any questions about that, you keep that appointment. And over 60% of the time, they'll keep that appointment. So they come in for 2 appointments the following week, not just 1. And then I found that keeps me from having to sell the next appointment to them. That's what you do with pre-scheduling. You don't sell your appointments. You sell care and over time so that people have an opportunity to heal.
It's funny, you obviously know this, but you can tell you're a psych major because of the terminology that you use for your appointments or your examinations. Whether you're marketing or you're titling an examination, it's really important to label it. And in your case, what you've done is you've labeled it in a positive way. For example, you call it the positive finding examination, the STAR appointment. These are all positive things that people will, naturally want to look forward to, especially the STAR appointment. Positive finding examination. Well, you know what? That means that probably by this examination, I'm going to have some positive findings. This guy's pretty sure of me as a new patient that in the end of by my next appointment, to my next examination, I'm going to have some positive results. That's how experienced this guy is. Titles like this I think it's essential. Don't just name something, oh, it's a midway examination. Oh, it's your next examination. Title it. Name it. It's really important for a marketing perspective, especially.
Well, that's so important because, and see, for me, it's very personal between me and the patient. And so the positive findings is, and Betty, we're going to do this positive findings, and what we're going to do with it, we're going to find out how far along you've healed, how much better you are, and then are you done? Can we dismiss you? Or do we need to do more care? And that makes sense to them. And that's the important thing. What he's telling me makes sense for my care. And so, I've got here, but, I'm still having a little bit off, or I feel better, but you still want to see me once a week? Why would that be? Well, Betty, look at these results. And we do an SEMG graph, and that's one of the most powerful tools for them. It helps me, but it really helps them to see what their progress is. And so we have things where they can see, they can understand, they can accept, oh, this makes sense. Well, then automatically they're going to do what you ask.
Right. And, I like the SEMG. I used to use that as well because it's computerized. It seems unbiased as long as you do it correctly, obviously. And people love to see graphic representations of how their body's healing.
That's so true.
Yeah, and when they see, oh my God, I have a red line, I have a red bar. Okay, I know I still have problems. I got to correct it. I got to get those red bars down to those green bars, and it really, really helps with patient compliance because they're seeing it from an unbiased perspective, a computer analysis, right?
And see, that's why x-rays are important. To me, x-rays are chiropractic standard of care. If you're not x-raying, boy, you're missing so much information.
I can't agree with you more. I think that's very important. Every clinic, if you don't have a space for it in your office, you should, obviously, I used to have x-ray facilities in my office, or, send them out.
That's right.
Send them out and get an x-ray. Because, again, you never know what the person has. Say they have some kind of really bad tumor in their spine. Well, you know what? They're going to need medical attention immediately. And you can't adjust that area unless you're given the okay, right? So you have, and then if someone has a scoliosis or some kind of structural deviation in their spine, and over the course of care, you've minimized that spine, you're showing them, this is what chiropractic can do. This is why you're feeling better. This is why you don't have the subluxations or the nerve dysfunction or
so important. So important. And you want to provide the best possible care. And in chiropractic college, you should have been taught the importance of x-rays. I've long maintained we don't take enough x-rays, not that we take too many. And so many people say, oh, I don't want to do all those x-rays. Geez, medical profession, people go out glowing sometimes because they do x-rays. And,
absolutely.
Dr. Ron Aragona in the 1980s had a corrective technique called applied spinal biomechanical engineering. And, you do lateral bending in the cervical, you can see what vertebrae are not moving properly. And if you do a positive and negative theta Z translation x-ray, you can see where the ligament damage is to the anterior and posterior common ligaments. And, flexion extension, you can too. And you should know how to analyze those x-rays because then you can point out to the patient, see this, your ligament is damaged here. Now, that's going to take 8 to 12 weeks minimum to heal, let alone the scar tissue to remodel where we're going to be able to get you back to care. Patients understand that, and they want to know how badly they're hurt. And it's like, well, gee, it doesn't hurt. I know, but look at this. And I bet every 20 minutes you move your neck and your neck pops, doesn't it? Yeah, well, that's this fixation breaking up as your body's trying to heal this.
Exactly. So let me ask you, if you could start all over again, right from the beginning, what would you have done differently to make your clinic more successful?
Um, Boy, that's a good question. That's a really good question. Um, I would have been more aggressive and aggressive in the appropriate way in emphasizing the chiropractic principles. And by that, I mean, I've come to realize that we have things called a subluxation-induced situation. So people have a subluxation pattern that changes function in their body. Like 1/3 of my practice, people come in because I can fix their allergies no matter how bad they are. And there are chiropractic techniques that allow you to fix the subluxations that are creating the chemical manifestation that medics call allergies. So I don't fix allergies. I use the allergies to find the subluxation patterns. When you fix the subluxation patterns, disappears. We had a national champion Division II runner come in to see us, and she won a full ride scholarship to her school from high school, and she had an exercise-induced asthma, and
Wow.
she couldn't run. I mean, you know, she's a 400-meter runner. 300 meters in, she'd have an asthma attack, and so she was risking losing her scholarship. And so what we did, we had her come in, bring her track shoes, go out and run until she got into an asthmatic attack and come back to the office. She's in a full-blown asthma attack. There's a subluxation pattern going on there. We would use that that asthma attack to find the subluxations, correct them, wipe out the asthma attack in less than 5 minutes.
You're kidding me.
And
Wow.
and the thing is, of course, we did this safely. She brought in her ventilators and her drugs in case she needed it. But, you know, and that would pull her out of the asthma attack, but she never needed them. And and you can do that kind of thing with the power of the chiropractic adjustment. It's like a sacred thing for me. It's just so wonderful to see the power of the body and its ability to heal itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what parting piece of advice can you give to students that are about to graduate and start their chiropractic career?
Hopefully, and it probably depends on what college they're at, but hopefully they've been told stories about the power of the chiropractic adjustment. And I mean, I was able to study with Fred Barge. I was able to study with Clay Thompson. And I had a chiropractor who worked as a student with B.J. Palmer. And I mean, so I had some real masters. And when they told me a story, it's like, wow, you know, the power of the adjustment. The power of the adjustment is important. So you learn how to adjust. You learn how to do this. You have faith in what you're doing. You recognize you are not second to the medics. They don't know anything about the spine except how to cut it up and wire it shut. And you recognize you use your training to get the things you've heard work. And then you'll start to see them work. And you'll start to realize you have that power to turn on the innate wisdom in people's body, to unblock the nerve flow so the person can express themselves at 100% peak potential. You optimize their human response on this planet. And if you hold that view, not just do I fix their headaches, not just, this is a sciatic patient, but how do I optimize this person's human expression on this planet so this soul can be the best they can and bring their blessings into here, into the planet for the benefit of mankind. Well, then your whole practice is going to be different. Your whole desire, your whole goals are going to be different. And the thing is, you'll manifest that.
Outstanding piece of advice. Outstanding piece of advice. Okay, doctor. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, one of the things with this subluxation-induced situation I've found is that gait problems, the way people move and walk, are significant problems. I mean, the average person walks 7,000 steps a day. That's 2.5 million steps in 1 year. So, and what are they doing to address that, specifically? And what I found is there are subluxation deficit patterns that occur with the human gait. And when you correct subluxations in a specific manner, you can change human gait, which is profound, because somebody with sciatica walks a certain way, somebody with some other problem, low back pain, walks a different way. You correct the gait, the pain goes away. And so it's very important. I've taught this now at the Michigan Association of Chiropractic at their fall convention last year. And it's a 12-hour seminar. I taught 4 hours, which was the first pattern I've done for the last 15 years. So I taught them what I know works based on 15 years of experience. And so we filmed that, and we're right in the process now of final editing so that people can get together. It'll be about 3 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours when we're done. That will actually show you how do you fix human gait. It's called Gait Assessment and Evaluation for the Busy Clinician. And in 3 to 5 minutes, tells you how to fix human gait. Very cool. I'm very proud of this.
Oh, outstanding, outstanding. And so how can they get in touch with you in regards to this course?
Well, that would be in the way you have contacted me, either by our website, drmjcudless@gmail.com. You can visit our website, kcchealth.net. Leave me a message there, or call me on my cell phone, and 269-254-4799.
Perfect. And we'll have all the information about your course in the show notes. So, yeah, that'll be great. That'd be great.
Perfect. Thanks so much for this, Doc. I really appreciate you doing this.
Oh, hey, no problems. No problems at all. Well, Dr. Cudless, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom to all these new doctors. I know it's going to benefit them tremendously. You've been definitely a pearl of wisdom, and you have great knowledge and great expertise. So I really, again, appreciate you for joining us here on the Crushing It podcast.
Well, thanks, Doc. I appreciate you asking me on and the opportunity to help others. Thanks again.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us today on the Crushing It podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach us at contact us at elitechirowebsites.com or make a post on our Facebook fan page at facebook.com/elitechirowebsites. And remember, if your website is not working for you and driving you new patients, or you're in need of a website, take advantage of our 2-month free trial offer today. Just go to elitechirowebsites.com or call 1-888-558-5054.